Hello and welcome to NDTV Profit. You're watching Budget Trade, and we are bringing in this segment in association with Mire Asset Sher Khan. Every day we will be talking of one sector and stocks in that sector which may be impacted by the upcoming budget which is coming on Feb 1st. And today we are going to discuss capital goods and Capex cycle. And joining me today is Sanjeev Hota, who is the VP and Head of Research at Mire Asset Sher Khan. Sanjeev, thank you very much for joining us today. My first thing is about the Capex cycle as a whole. We started off the year with a very high Capex cycle estimate of 11 lakh odd crores. But because of elections and others, we have seen a slow implementation. What is your assessment of the Capex cycle as we speak?
Yeah, good morning and thanks for having me on the show. So as you rightly put, we have started the year with an optimistic kind of budget, that is 11.1 lakh crore. But because of the state election and more so of the general election, the government is going to be very, very significantly short of what they have budgeted at the start of the year. And we can end up with this year with a capex spend of close to 9.4 kind of lakh crore. And going into FY26, I believe because of the lesser number of the state election, the spend is going to improve significantly. And in the last 2-3 months, we have seen that the government spend on capex has increased. So I believe going into FY26 as a whole, the capex outlay may not increase the absolute basis, but the spend once it will going to improve significantly. And apart from that, I believe India is on a cusp of capex cycle. If we are going to be a 7 trillion kind of economy in the coming years, I believe capex, manufacturing, all this hold very big significant for that perspective. So maybe FY25 was the year of moderation. But going forward, I'm very confident that the capex and this manufacturing is a big thing to play out.
Sanjeev, capex has been a theme for last 2-3 years. और अगर हम देखेंगे तो काफ़ी सेक्टर्स इसमें इम्पैक्ट भी होते हैं इस साइकिल में. So if you can give us an idea of which are the sectors within the capex cycle which will be in play, and then we can come to some of the stocks which are prominent in these sectors.
Yeah, so since if you remember last cycle, the big capex cycle in 2004 to 7, where there's a lots of this power ancillaries, utilities, industrial, manufacturing ancillaries companies, most of them have significant creator of wealth during that time. So these are usual name. If you ask me about the usual name, Siemens, ABB, L&T, CG Power, BHEL, all this company and the new transformer company, this transmission company, all these ये जितने भी companies हैं मुझे लग रहा है कि सब एक बहुत अच्छे स्तर पर हैं in terms of the business perspective. Maybe we can debate on the valuation perspective because of the kind of run up हमने देखा है लास्ट 2-3 साल में इसके लिए करेक्ट हो रहे हैं. But for a business perspective, for a longer term outlook, we are positive. But maybe for a valuation perspective, we are not very comfort. But if you ask me about name, these are all the big names.
So capex के अंदर अगर हम देखें तो public and private sector capex भी है. So we have, I think in the government capex around 50% of it goes to roads and railways. Do you see a good amount of allocation coming in for railways this time?
So railway maybe we are going to see some kind of hike in the allocation. But I'm again repeating myself that the allocation is not important. The key for FY26 is how much the government is going to spend. Because if the government is going to give a higher target, maybe the railway budget will be the tune to 2.8, 2.9 kind of trillion as compared to 2.6 trillion in FY25. The important here is that whether the government will be able to spend or not. And same goes for the entire capex allocation. 11.11 on an absolute basis, we can end up with maybe 11.15. But important and key going into FY26 is whether the government will be able to spend or not. And that will be the key monitorable for the state and as an investor.
Do you expect the FY26 capex figure which you are talking about 11.5 lakh crores to be that, because the revised figure would be, as you said, 9.5 lakh crores odd. So, you are talking about more than 15% jump in capex allocation, right, from a revised budget to the budget estimate for FY26.
So that is the best case scenario I'm talking about. Maybe if you ask me about what I have written in my report, that there is a very uh, uh, less chance of government going into any significant increase on an absolute basis. It's going to be 3.2% kind of GDP and maybe hovering around 11.1 to similar number. But the best case scenario and what state will be happy थोड़ा सा खुश हो जाएंगे कि capex बढ़ गया, maybe 11.5.
Because last time when it came out with the thing, it was 3.4% of GDP. So, as percentage of GDP, it may come down a slightly, right?
Right. Because the this fiscal consolidation and prudence is taking ahead of what the government is likely to spend. Because the credibility of Indian macro and India as a country has improved significantly because of the this finance RBI team that we have got. And 4.5% of fiscal deficit target for FY26, achieving that is very important. And 4.9 target anyway we are going to achieve this year because of the less spend on the capex and higher we got from the income tax and also RBI dividend. But we need to maintain that credibility, and for that 4.5%, 4.4% fiscal deficit target is important. And taking all this thing into picture, I believe 3.2% capex to GDP is quite, that is the figure I am taking.
So, it is turning out to be interesting that capex will be the key thing to watch out for everyone, because we are in a slowdown mode, because in the last couple of quarters we have seen GDP for FY25 also more getting moderated by various agencies. Uh, Going to FY26, do you think that this revival in capex and the spending, which we have seen last 2-3 months, a lot of orders have come into play, has been put out. Do you think that that's pushing our GDP also there? And if that is there, which are the key sectors to look out for, or players to look out for? Leave alone the part that okay, valuation would be some issue for so many of them, because many of them have run up ahead of their earnings.
So this two-part question. I'll take the first part. That is whether the GDP and earning is going to revive. My sense is that going into FY26, because we are ending entire FY25, looking at the Q3 numbers and low base effect that is going to come to play going into FY26. और 4.5% का निफ्टी ग्रोथ रहेगा ये साल का एट द बेस्ट केस सिनेरियो 4.5 4.6. So going into FY26 because of the low base effect, earnings तो अच्छा ही दिखेगा as compared to FY25. तो GDP recovery की बात करें तो I believe that government will definitely put its thrust and focus into reviving the economy because the moderation that we have seen in FY25. And budget is not the only tool or event that government has got. We have seen that in the run-up to budget itself, government has announced this liquidity this event last evening. So budget के beyond भी बहुत चीज गवर्नमेंट कर सकता है, whether to bring PLI, giving incentive for manufacturing and बहुत सारी चीज गवर्नमेंट कर सकता है. And at least now RBI need to step in. I think now they have acknowledged that inflation is not a problem. They have injected liquidity in the system. Maybe we see first rate cut coming in the February 5th, this first meet of this year. So a combination of both. What is the government measure is going to put in putting more money in this incentive, capex and all, and RBI supporting the same because private capex अभी भी missing है. और लास्ट 3 साल में गवर्नमेंट हैज डन ऑल द हेवी लिफ्टिंग. गवर्नमेंट कैपेक्स लास्ट 3 साल में ऑलमोस्ट हैव मोर देन ट्रिपल्ड. Okay, so now private capex need to come in, and for that to come in, I think RBI support needed. So a combination of all these factors, and all these factors I think will reflect into the GDP, and secondly into the earning recovery. Second part, valuation, I believe that we are going through the same cycle what we have seen during 2018-19. Usually this mid-cap, small-cap rally lasts for 18 months at the best, then again goes through this correction cycle. And same thing is happening currently. जो लोग बोलते हैं बाजार में कि this time is different, और जो 5-6 महीना बोल रहे थे, nothing is different. Everything goes through a cycle. And the same thing that we are witnessing currently. And this is going to be very painful for some of the this mid cap and small cap and some of the companies. The astronomical situation पे बैठे हैं, I think they need to get corrected. That is what market is all about.
तो आपके हिसाब से प्राइवेट कैपेक्स जब रिवाइव होगा और इट विल बी अ कॉम्बिनेशन ऑफ फैक्टर्स राइट द गवर्नमेंट पुश आरबीआई कटिंग डाउन रेट्स सो दैट योर कॉस्ट ऑफ बोरोइंग आल्सो कम्स डाउन एंड द डिमांड आल्सो गोइंग अप दैट्स व्हाट इज गोइंग टू रिवाइव प्राइवेट कैपेक्स एज वेल तो कौन कौन से कंपनीज या कौन कौन से सेक्टर्स हैं जहाँ पर आपको कैपेक्स फर्स्ट दिखेगा
So entire manufacturing space, industrial space, capital goods, if you take out the big names, the L&T of the world, ABB, Siemens, Cummins, if I go into the mid-cap names, some of the names like Kirloskar Oil Engine, maybe TD Power, Techno Electric, this all are the names, good names. And they have delivered good numbers. They are already going through a cyclical moderation in the earning, and the valuation is on the top side. That is the reason they are getting corrected. But all this name again will come back into the limelight once the stability on the valuation and earning will start picking up.
So you expect their order book issue, I mean the valuation correcting as a separate thing, but fundamentally the order books for these companies which you mentioned in the large and the mid cap space, these are some of the companies where you're going to see first cycle of capex coming into play and they benefiting from the capex.
Yes, I believe that if we are going to be a $7 trillion economy, government cannot only spend on the capex and private capex getting on the back foot. It's a combination of both, and if both playing out, I think after this moderation of maybe this year, 2025 year is going to be a very difficult year to make money in this market. But for a longer term perspective, next 3 to 5 years, I'm very confident that the combination of both government capex, private capex coming into the play, all these companies are going to get benefited.
What about the road sector? Because government emphasis has been on creation of highways and उसकी वजह से काफ़ी orders भी flow हुए हैं road companies को तो आपका view क्या है road companies road and highway developers के ऊपर?
देखिए ये तो एक टॉप ऑफ द एजेंडा है कि रोड बनाना है हाईवेज बनाना ये सब बनाना है प्रॉब्लम ये है कि कॉम्पिटिटिव इंटेंसिव बहुत बढ़ चुका है यहाँ पे So the guys, how can they make money with a higher ROE and not putting the pain on the balance sheet? वो थोड़ा सा मेरे लिए प्रॉब्लमेटिक है नहीं तो स्पेंड तो आएगा बहुत स्पेंड आएगा रोड बनना है हाईवे बनना है ये सब बनना ही है लेकिन जो कॉम्पिटिटिव इंटेंसिटी है और ऑर्डर नहीं आ रहे थे अगर FY25 में देखें बिकॉज ऑफ स्टेट एंड जनरल इलेक्शन ऑर्डर्स इतने आ नहीं रहे थे और जो आ रहे थे वहां पे कॉम्पिटिटिव इंटेंसिटी बहुत हाई था तो मैं यहाँ पे कंपनी स्पेसिफिक आई एम नॉट वेरी वेरी पॉजिटिव बट इट्स अ गुड स्पेस अगर मार्केट अच्छा हो सब कुछ अच्छा हो यू कैन लुक इनटू दिस स्पेंड आएगा सब चीज अच्छा है लेकिन फ्रॉम अर्निंग पर्सपेक्टिव वोलेटिलिटी रहेगा एंड दे कैन नॉट मेक हायर रिटर्न गिवन दैट द कॉम्पिटिटिव इंटेंसिटी
कुछ कंपनीज any companies that you can name here in the sense which you are watching out for?
KNR, PNC, Infra, all this company.
And railways, हमने बात की कि you mentioned also that there could be a slight increase in capex for railways. In the railway segment, which are the companies that you're looking at?
So I would bet on the Siemens, ABB, CG Power. I think these are the better company. Maybe not for the short-term kind of thing. I'm repeating myself because the kind of environment we are currently in, they get corrected more because they have significantly run up ahead of their fundamental. So maybe in the near term we might see more correction. But if you ask me about name which could benefit more from this railway capex, the Siemens, ABB, CG Power are the names.
And when do you see the correction for these companies, marquee companies, to get over, or arrive at a equilibrium where the correction valuations are at par or slightly premium? This, do you see further correction for these companies there?
So it is always a function of the earning, where the earning is going to say going into FY26. If you ask me about large caps, okay, Nifty and Nifty Next, excluding the this one group company. So if you ask me about this Nifty 50, it is trading at close to 18 times forward earning, 18.5 times forward earning, which is quite decent. Looking at the large cap. So large cap में मुझे problem नहीं दिखाई देता. My problem lies in the mid and small cap, which are still trading at a premium to the historical average. And once the earning is not supportive, we have seen in the last cycle 2018-19, जब mid cap indices, small cap indices, मुझे याद है small cap 39% correct हुआ था, and some of the names has corrected more than 70-80%. So जो बोल रहे हैं कि अभी 20-30% में एवरेज कर लेते हैं, कंपनी अच्छा है, if the earnings are not going to be supportive, irrespective of कितनी अच्छी कंपनी हो, it can get correct more. 30% नीचे है तो और 40% नीचे हो सकता है. So this is not the right time to buy the dip.
So finally, Sanjeev, अगर मैं आपको बोलूं कि आप अपने 5 स्टॉक वॉच लिस्ट वाले स्टॉक्स बताओ मुझे, कि 5 स्टॉक्स जिसको मैं वॉच करूंगा बजट के लिए, क्योंकि पॉलिसीज अनाउंसमेंट्स आएंगी कैपेक्स पे और कैपिटल गुड्स के लिए, तो वो 5 स्टॉक्स वॉच लिस्ट के लिए कौन से होंगे आपके?
Across the sector?
Across the sectors, रेलवे, पावर, रोड्स, आप कोई भी कैपिटल गुड्स एंड कैपेक्स रिलेटेड जो है, इन 3-4 जो सेक्टर्स आपने मेंशन किए हैं उसमें.
तो इस पे पहला तो एलएनटी डेफिनेटली, सेकंड एनटीपीसी इंक्लूडिंग एनटीपीसी ग्रीन, और उसके बाद आई थिंक दिस एचएएल, बीईएल बोथ, एंड लास्ट नेम इफ आई से इज द केसी.
Which one, sir?
केसी लिमिटेड.
अच्छा, केएनसी
ट्रांसमिशन कंपनी.
Okay. So, Sanjeev, it was a pleasure talking to you. We'll continue this discussion in the second part, and there we will discuss about defense sector and the opportunities there for many of the defense companies and how it is there. Stay tuned to Budget Trade.